morning, everyone. Welcome to Success Without Borders, Éxito Sin Fronteras. Today we have Rohan Herbert here with, what is the company of your company now?
Herbert Realty Advisors.
Herbert Realty Advisors. And he's also the director at Smidra here in Colorado. Do you want to, well, before we go into this, and he explains what Smidra is, because that's a mouthful. Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Encore Bank, for all your commercial needs, residential, mortgages, bank accounts, business needs. Go ahead and reach out to them at 303-429-0804. Again, Encore Bank, 303-429-0804. Rohan, I'm going to give you the floor real quick.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Rohan Herbert. I'm the broker owner of Herbert Realty Advisors, and I've been practicing real estate since 2003, so about 23 years in the game, and I'm still having fun.
Still having fun?
Yes.
23 years later in real estate? Are you sure?
I'm still having fun, yeah. I like solving problems, you know. I learned years ago, the guy that got me into the business said to me, hey, Rohan, go find a problem. If you don't have a problem to solve, you're out of business. So I'm still having fun solving problems.
I agree with that. Real estate is definitely a problem-solving business. For all those out there that don't know, if you're real estate is, especially what you do, and what is your niche?
My niche, what I really love is when someone's getting ready to retire, and a lot of the times that property is paid off, it's free and clear, and they can't. It's a two stories, let's say, and they can't do the second floor anymore, and they said, Rohan, I need a ranch. Those deals are fun because what I've done over the years, I would help that seller cash out, and we would help them buy a replacement property. And what makes me unique is, I would say, literally 90% of those deals, I've closed both transactions within the same week.
Okay.
That's a lot of stress on the title company because I call them every day. But my clients have no clue what's going on in terms of the stress, so we would help them sell and purchase their replacement property within 7 days.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Thank you.
I want to say too, when I met you first, it was, and something that you love to do was because you like to do commercial real estate.
Yes. Yes. That's fun.
Tell us what commercial real estate is.
Well, it's on the residential side, it's what we call 4+ units that would be considered a commercial transaction, even if it's residential. But generally, the standard commercial would be a multi-unit property. That right now I currently have one, and it's off market. I have one under contract, and it's an entire block. Now this deal is supposed to close in about a few months. When this deal closes, knock on wood, God willing, it would be my first time selling an entire city block.
Okay.
Now this property is on East 22nd, a few blocks away from the Denver Zoo, so that's fun. I mean, we got 2 restaurants, ice cream parlor, you know, bunch of stuff. So a dog grooming a company there, so that's fun. And the client was referred to me, and he's cashing out. He bought it, you know, not 30 years ago, excuse me, for not so much money, but it was a lot of money back then. And now he's cashing out, and he's gonna make over 7 digits. So that's fun to see him come from an investor that bought it 30 years ago, when the neighborhood was kind of rough before the gentrification happened, to see him being able to cash out now and reaping the benefits. So that's fun. So, and I've done all type of commercial transactions. I mean, I've done strip malls. I've done a ton of stuff. So, you know, multi-units is generally, and I made my bones in New York doing multi-units. Those are my first transactions. You know.
Okay. What got you into real estate?
What got me into real estate?
Yeah, what got you into real estate?
In my young 20s, I was going to buy my first property, and we were under contract. I still remember the property, 206 Lewis Avenue in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. I think that's the address, 206 Lewis Avenue. That property right now is ridiculous. We were under contract, we were pending, and I don't know what happened, whether it was the inspection didn't go well or whatever the situation was, and I wanted out. So and I wanted to terminate. But New York is a little different from Colorado. What I mean by that is, in Colorado it's an earnest money state. So you put up your earnest money with the title company. It's usually about 1% of the transaction. In New York, there's no earnest money. It's a down payment, and the money leaves your pocket and it goes. The seller's attorney draws up the contract, sends it to your attorney. You show up, you sign, and you put the money down. And we did that. And whatever happened, I wanted out. And I was told it's not going to work. I can't get out of the deal. I says, well, wait a minute. I'm terminating. So when you mean I can't get my money back, that sounds strange to me. Long story short, I was able to get my money back. And then I thought, and I said, wait a minute, how many people is something like this happening to? I got to get involved and be a licensed agent to make sure that this doesn't happen to someone who literally just wants out for whatever reason, and they didn't understand the contract and how it works, and they were being told their money's gone. So that prompted me to go get a license, and the rest is history.
Wow. You know what's crazy?
Uh-huh.
That I hear that story here in Colorado often.
Really?
Even now, where clients are misled that they are not able to get their earnest money back, or they're not able to terminate because of inspection items or whatever misinformation people are receiving. So it's nice to hear, right, that there are good people out there still doing the right thing, doing the right thing for clients. And Pablo, saludos to Pablo. He's in Colombia. He's saying hi.
Oh, hey Pablo, how are you? How's the weather down there?
It's very warm. He keeps posting about he's in a coffee field down there. They sell coffee.
I love Colombian coffee.
When he comes back,
He's got to bring me a bag, yeah.
Yes.
A nice bag of coffee.
Okay. And you said you were in your 20s.
Yeah, I was in my young 20s. And so here's my regret. I should have closed on the property. Unbeknownst to me, real estate would take off, right? You're talking mid,
So you didn't buy a house?
No, I terminated in that particular deal. I'm talking about that contract. That property now is in the millions.
Okay.
So imagine where I probably wouldn't be working right now. I'd be a full-fledged investor. So that's what I mean about the yin and the yang. You're never really losing when you buy real estate, but as a new potential buyer, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. I just knew that I couldn't keep paying rent, or we couldn't keep paying rent.
Right. Well, but did you end up buying after that transaction? Yeah?
Yeah.
And you still made bank anyways.
But that one was special because it was a brownstone. It had the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
You saw the Cosby Show. It was one of those, right? And whenever I drive by that building, I just shake my head and say, man, that one got by me.
Pablo said yes, and he said it's hot and humid.
Oh, are you looking at? Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments over there. I cover them up here with my phone.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right, now I can see it. Yeah.
But
Pablo, ¿qué pasando? ¿Todo bien?
So, wow. Well, I can't imagine. But like you said, right? Everything happens for a reason. Before you put them on the show, you're like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yes, I'm a big believer in that.
So.
Everything happens for a reason. I don't know why I didn't end up closing on that property. I mean, it's beautiful. It was a beautiful property and a nice block. And that area right now is what they call, it's Bedford-Stuyvesant, but it's like Stuyvesant Heights.
Okay.
So it's where the lawyers and the doctors and people that live in Bed-Stuy kind of live in that area. So, and it happens. No regrets.
Hashtag no regrets. Perfect. Well, I guess that was my first question.
Yes.
You said commercial, and one of the biggest things that I wanted, and I'm curious, and I'm sure everyone that's done real estate, you said something about a reverse 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
First off, I would say most people that are listening to us don't even know what a 1031 exchange is, so let's start there.
Yeah, well, a 1031 exchange is a tax strategy for someone that's an investor, for them to defer paying capital gains. So it's not that you never pay the capital gains. Let me make sure I say that right. It's deferred. Now, some people so liquid they defer indefinitely by just getting a trust, and they buy new properties and they roll it over. But on average, the average investor basically, if you sell an investment property, let's say your profit on that sale is $400,000. Around 25% or less, depending on your tax bracket, could go to the government, the IRS, in capital gains. So let's say your profit is 400,000 and a quarter of your profit, that's 100 grand, is gone. You can't pass that on to your kids and grandkids. So a lot of investors basically use that tax strategy to defer the capital gains to keep their money in their pocket.
Okay, and how do you use that? What's the next step?
Well,
After you sell, you use the 1031 exchange, and then how does that process work?
after you sell, you use the 1030, you buy a replacement property with
Okay.
the proceeds. Excuse me, I should have said that part, right? When someone sells, or what they call, when they relinquish the property that they're getting rid of, there's a capital gain tax attached to that asset. But when you roll the proceeds over from that sale into a new property, right, then at that point, the funds go towards down payment or paying for the new property all cash. So you don't have the issue of having to pay capital gains, which could be a chunk of money. And I like paying taxes, but if there's a loophole that the government says that could be used, I try to tell my clients to jump in.
I agree. And it's good that we're explaining this. A lot of people don't understand. And again, a lot of professionals out there don't know how to explain a 1031 exchange correctly, much less handle these type of deals, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's ugly sometimes. I've taken over transactions that started in the past, and sometimes my name wasn't on it. That's it. Give me something small in the end, but you're doing this incorrectly. Let's back up. Let's start over. So it's very important when it's, because a lot of times a lot of investors get in and they wait, because you have 45 days to identify the replacement property and 180 days or 6 months to close. I've had clients that waited until day 44 and wanted a miracle. So I always said you got to be ahead of the game. Don't get ahead of your skis, but you got to be ahead of the game to make sure it doesn't trigger you having to pay capital gains.
Okay. Give us an example of the worst experience you've had where you had to take over and save a deal in a scenario.
Wow. Well.
You're like, there's so many.
No, I've had a transaction where it was moving along, and the buyer or the seller that was relinquishing the property, the buyer was too lofty. They wanted this perfect new property without realizing it was just a strategy. You're not gonna ever live in this property. It's just so a lot of times investors who rarely get emotional, sometimes every now and then they get emotional about the property they owned in the past, and that could have them dragging their feet without realizing there's a time frame on having to get the property identified, the replacement property. So you got to get under contract and get the new property purchased or lease pending right away, so it doesn't trigger. So that's always nightmarish because it's never their fault. When he says, "Hey, you got 2 days left," well, you should have told me, and oh my God, and I'm like, well, look at the emails and the text that I sent you, a month ago, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So that's always nerve-wracking because it's never their fault, right?
Correct.
As brokers, it's always our fault, and we take responsibility for that, but it's always our fault.
I agree. That's what I tell my coaching clients. It's always your fault. And it's true. It is true.
Right.
Because, see, at this point, you could have just fired the client and said, okay, perfect. You're not listening to me. I'm not going to be blamed 2 days before the deadline.
Right. Right.
Boundaries.
Right. And it's happened, and I was able to work a miracle. But you never want to, because then they think this is, it's easier than that if the rules are followed and people play nice.
Right. So out there with all these investors, especially a lot of new investors out there that are getting into the fix and flips, that are getting into this, would you suggest a 1031 exchange for these investors?
That's a good question. So a lot of my
Sorry, I told you questions are gonna pop off as we're
having
the conversation.
It's a good one. I mean, most people I do fix and flip with, they don't utilize that strategy.
Okay.
They go in and out, right? They should use it more, but most of them don't.
Okay.
I mean, they get the property at such a discounted rate, cost, up front, that usually it works out, and they don't even think about it. They just go to the next deal. But yeah, I'm wearing two hats with this, right? As an investor, not my broker stuff as an investor, um, I don't even really get into 1031 exchanges with that part of the deal. If I'm involved in a normal transaction, a traditional deal, then I would tell that investor that's cashing out about using the 1031 exchange. But the fix and flip folks, some of them are educated, they know what they're doing, they're not newbies, so I really don't give them advice. I just say, here's the property, you like it, you don't? So I don't really, that's two different hats, and I don't wear them in the same room. So, great question.
Okay.
If that answered what you were looking for.
Well, I'm just thinking, right, kind of going back to the education part, where it might be a good strategy because they do get the property at a discounted rate. They are making a lot of money, and they are going to have to pay capital gains anyways. Every deal on multiple deals every time.
I agree with you, right? But because I wear two separate hats, I try to, when I'm an investor, doing an investor transaction with other investors, I don't want to be smart. I just want to go in and out of the deal. Whereas if I'm wearing my broker hat, then that's different. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, there you go. Just food for thought, investors out there.
Yeah, you're on your own, buddy. Just kidding.
Or work with Rohan, and he'll tell you the right things to do. That's again, that's the whole point of these, right? Is
right.
Get the information out, and whoever needs it is going to pick up on it.
Right.
And any questions that you guys might have, let us know. This is the perfect moment to ask these questions. We have the expert, 23 years of experience. Now
yes. Drain my brain. Just kidding.
Now you said reverse 1031 exchange. Explain that. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Wow. Well, reverse 1031 exchanges are so interesting. That's why I got gray hair. Right? And a quick example of a reverse 1031 exchange. It's just like an exchange, except it's in reverse, meaning, I'll give you an example of a deal that I did a few years back. An investor had a few properties he was looking to liquidate, and he bought and sold a lot of stuff over the years. And he always basically would just pay the capital gains. So someone introduced him to me, and I said, we're not going to do that going forward. This is the strategy we're going to employ. He said, well, wait a minute. How many properties could I sell at the same time? I said, as many as you want. How many you got? And I saw his portfolio. I'm like, well, you got too many, so we're not going to sell them all at the same time. That could trigger other stuff. But he says, what about two of them? I said, good. Let's dump the two of them. And you could use the proceeds from from both those sales to buy a replacement property, and you don't have to worry about the capital gains on that one. But it's real estate. Things happen. So we put both properties on the market. One went under contract, the other one did not. And he called me up and says, well, I found a replacement property. What do I do? And I'm like, what do you mean you found a replacement property? Well, you told me you were doing an exchange, but I already found a property. I said, well, okay, you're going to make me work for my money over here. We're going to do what's called the reverse 1031 exchange. It's like, now you're getting complicated. First you said the exchange, now it's a reverse. I'm like, yeah. So basically what we ended up doing, he found the replacement property. We went on contract on the replacement property, and we closed on it. But the question is, how could he close it? He didn't sell the other two that he was going to use the proceeds. So what we did was we used what's called they call it today a 1031 bridge loan.
Okay.
Right? Or gap financing in the lending world. And you know about that, being an awesome lender that you are. So basically we were able to close on the replacement property prior to both relinquished properties being sold. And it got complicated because, well, today there's a lot of private money guys that are involved with providing that funding. But when I started doing these, or way back when, no one wanted to touch them because you're asking someone to step in on a short-term loan. They're like, well, wait a minute, if this goes wrong, this could go wrong. So I called around a few people. No one wanted to touch the first one that I did. And a buddy of mine, he's connected here, and I said to him, hey, I need a little help. And he says, well, you need short-term funding. No one's going to really take you up on that because what if something goes wrong and then they're trying to get their money back? So he called, I think, the president of Bank of Colorado, or the vice president. We had a conversation about 30 minutes, and he said he'll fund the deal because I showed him the guy's net worth and what he was doing and all the assets. And he says he's not really a risk because there's a lot of collateral. So he funded that transaction. But now today, a lot of private money guys are involved in that part of, they're funding the gap financing. And that didn't really exist. So long story short, he bought the property he wanted because he found it before the time frame. We ended up putting the second property on the contract. They both closed, and from the proceeds from that,
just paid off the loan.
We paid off the loan.
Okay.
And he was happy. So he got his property, his replacement property that he was looking for, and he was able to cash out 2 of them, and that was a fun day.
Wow. Well, that's some creative problem solving there.
Yeah, thank you. So we had 3 transactions closed from the same client within, a month or two, whatever it was. So that's fun.
And I think, right, like you said, there's sometimes people that have problems, they don't think or find, so I think there's solutions to these
Right.
things, right?
And sometimes they're not if you work with the wrong broker, right? Because he said he'd heard of that stuff before, but he didn't trust it because when he asked a few questions, the brokers were like,
I don't know.
I'll try to get back to you. He's like, well, okay, that's not going to work. So he never really, wanted to do it. And actually, he was one of the brokers in my office, one of my team members. It was his client, and we kind of walked him through it.
Okay. Let's see. Do you want to explain what SMIDRA is?
SMEDRA.
SMIDRA.
SMEDRA is an acronym, and it's South Metro Denver Realtor Association. Probably one of the biggest associations in the state, if not the biggest. So it's basically a group of brokers that belong to this association, and we realtors. Let me say that correctly, because there's a difference between a broker and a realtor. A realtor is trained. We have extra training, let's say, and we care about the public. I see slightly more than the average investor / broker would do, or just a broker in general. So yeah, SMEDRA is fun. They've been around for years, and I'm a member.
Why are you a member?
Why am I a member? I've always been a member of an association. Even since in New York, I was a member of the Brooklyn Board of Realtors. So the office that I got my license with initially, I think everyone were realtors there, so I had to become a realtor, and I learned a lot over the years about taking care of the public. We're trained on the ethics of doing real estate as compared to a non-realtor who's not really trained. Let me not say that. It's not mandatory. It's mandatory for us to be trained. A non-realtor broker, it's not mandatory.
Okay. So you guys go above and beyond.
Yes, we love our clients.
Okay. So any new agent out there that's gonna come into the market of becoming a realtor, getting their license, you would highly suggest that they join an association.
100%. Because first of all, you get to network with a group outside of your office, right? And you learn from a lot of veteran realtors that are there, and that's always fun because I'm a big advocate for following the lead of someone that was successful in the past. It shortens your time frame to getting to the top, right? As opposed to snagging along. So that's a real good way to network with realtors that are involved, that care about the community, and have a decent amount of closings.
So, and I don't know this, so just random question.
Mm-hmm.
What does SMIDRA do for the community? Above and beyond just training the agents and the realtors that are part of the group and giving better service, right, and protection for the clients and the
Mm-hmm.
public. How are they involved in the community?
Wow. Well, every year, SMEDRA does a lot. Every year, we do a toy drive, and
Okay.
we raise money, and we gather a lot of toys and stuff for the kids for Christmas, and that's a big deal because some people are less fortunate, and really, and every year we meet up. It's on the news. Sometimes I show up for the news stuff. Sometimes I don't. But I love the fact that it's community outreaching. It's not just how many deals did you do this year, how many transactions. It's more about being in the community and really it operates like a nonprofit in terms of the stuff it does for the community, but obviously it's an association, realtor association. But they do, and that's just one of the things that's done annually. The toy drives, food drives during the year. Thanksgiving, we give out a lot of food as well to just really community-based stuff that's not mandated or required. It's just really good people. Like Melissa Maldonado is the CEO. She's really big on helping the community, and I love that about her.
You're gonna have to introduce me to Melissa. Bring her
Yes,
on.
she's a great person. I will.
Rohan.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Myself.
Yes.
That's the one subject I don't really know anything about. I don't like to talk about myself. Can you tell?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
What brought you to Colorado? Let's start there. You said you were in New York.
Yeah. Well, what brought me to Colorado? My kids were getting older, and I think my oldest was getting ready to go to high school, and we wanted a different environment because I went to high school in New York, and it could be rough sometimes on the train or whatever. And that was one of the main things. We had family here, so we wanted to be out here. My wife's from here, so we would visit every year, and we decided in 2010 to make the move. It wasn't because the real estate market crashed either. So that mess in 2010. So we decided to transfer, and there were HUDs everywhere. And so what brought me to Colorado was I loved everything about Colorado.
So you've seen the crash.
Yes.
And you've seen it come back. What would you tell? Because I'm sure you hear this a lot, right? And I get conversations like this all the time asking me. Everyone's waiting for the next crash.
The next crash? So what's the question?
What would you tell anyone that's thinking of buying, new person, investor that's holding back, and they're all waiting for all these foreclosures and short sales to happen? What would you tell them today?
Well, there's a cliche, right, in real estate, and it goes like, don't wait to buy and wait, or something like that. I'm not good with cliches, but that's a simplified way of saying get in right now. Because going back to this example of what made me get into real estate years ago, imagine if I would have bought that property. I mean, I don't know what it's worth now, but it's 7 digits, and I don't know if I was going to pay $300,000 for it back then. So you got to get in right now. Get in as soon as possible. I don't care if it's a buyer's or a seller's market. Buy and hold, buy and sell, but just buy, right? Because if you don't, see, the thing is, inflation is always chasing us. We have a bad friend out there. His name is inflation, and he wants to just take everything from you. One of the assets that help really protect inflation is buying real estate. I mean, there are other stuff, but one of the main easiest accessible way or asset to purchase is real estate. And it really is a fighter against inflation. And no matter what, I don't care what your dollar's worth today, it's going to be worth less in the future. So if you know that and you're strategic, right, you got to get in right now and just buy and either rent it out or buy and live in it.
Agreed. How old were you? You said you were in your 20s. How old were you when you were going to buy that house?
23,
yeah.
24, I don't know. Around that, around there.
It's funny. I bought my first townhome right around the corner here.
Really?
You know those townhomes right there?
Yeah.
With no HOA?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I bought my first townhome.
It's a great neighborhood.
I was 21.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
impressive.
And you know what's funny? I had someone close to me say, "Oh, that's it? That's what you bought?"
And it's always someone close to you, right? It's
yes.
not a stranger.
So, kind of going back to,
yeah.
What would you tell people listening to those closest to you that are saying, don't wait for rates to come down, wait for prices to come down? Again, same thing. What would you tell me if I was 21 trying to get your son?
Well,
does your son own real estate right now?
Not yet. Well, I don't know if he wants me to say that, so I'm gonna say not yet.
TBD.
When I first got into the business, I would always say, sometimes when I worked a lot with buyers back then, I would say, don't bring in family members to the showing. And they said, well, what do you mean? They've got to give me the blessing. I'm like, most likely, or not just family members, close friends, they're going to try to persuade you not to do this, because a lot of times it wasn't that they didn't think it was a good idea. They were nervous, or they weren't owners, so how dare you? Something could go wrong, and don't bother. So a lot of the times that's what happens. So it's not that they're negative, it's just like, well, I haven't done that, so, and I'm 30, and you're 21, you got to take it easy, go work a few jobs first. But I would always say, just don't bring them, just, trust your instincts, right? Because you're here for a reason. You saved up the money, you got your credit together, and you have the down payment, and someone's telling you, what if something goes wrong? Well, the sky could fall tomorrow, right? Well, we're not going to play that game, so you just got to buy it.
Considering everything that's going around,
right.
The sky could literally fall tomorrow.
Right. And if it does, that's the plan.
It is. So I agree with you. Just go for it, right? That was me.
Congrats though, 21. It's pretty impressive.
Yes. And you know what's crazy? That's kind of after I got into real estate, and I realized, I'm like, wow. In that property, I had a house fire.
No way.
Yes. So I bought it in 2014. In 2015, I had a house fire.
That's nuts.
who represented me at that moment in time ended up being a transaction broker.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to explaining things correctly, or at least sharing the truth. I think at that 2014, I qualified for 150,000, and I bought it for 125.
Wow.
And when I talked to this person, I met him at the bank. I used to work at a bank, and they're like, America, I have the perfect property for you. This is it. You're not gonna find anything else. He didn't show me anything else. He showed me the property he was selling.
Of course.
He didn't explain to me what a transaction broker was.
See, I don't like that.
He didn't explain to me any of this. He just said, this is the only thing you're going to qualify for. I did talk to another broker, and they were trying to pressure me into purchasing at my max purchase power.
Also not good.
Correct. and,
Wow.
and I told him, like, no, I don't feel comfortable paying that. My payment is here. This is where I'm at, max.
Right.
I'm maxed out. No, but there's houses here. I didn't work with that realtor. But then not realizing that I was still going to be misled here. So with this one, same thing. Money was tight. And at that point, they're like, you qualify for this program. And then I didn't qualify for that program when we were under contract. And then I had to bring more money to the table.
Wow.
None of this was explained.
Wow.
They were like, oh, you have the inspection deadline. I'm like, do I have to do an inspection? They're like, well, you don't have to.
Wow. Really?
Guess what happened? I didn't do an inspection.
Bad advice, yeah. And you didn't know.
I didn't know. I was 21.
You're relying on this person to be legit.
Correct.
Or tell you the right thing and let you make the choice.
Correct.
Of not doing the inspection. Because probably it would have pointed out some stuff you need to know up front, right?
Correct. Correct.
I don't like brokers like that, you know.
Well, kind of point of being part of SMIDRA or any association, right, is making sure that you guys are represented correctly. And the people that know me, like me, trust me, know that that is always top of mind, right, is being represented correctly.
Right.
And the reason why I'm sharing this is so they understand that I've been through it, right?
Yeah.
I've been through it. And because I didn't do an inspection, because I wasn't guided correctly on my first purchase, I ended up having a house fire in 2015.
Wow. Because of the electric panel?
Yep.
Scary.
Yeah.
Scary. Wow.
And I lost it all. Everything.
Really?
Everything. You know why? Because there was asbestos.
Oh my gosh. So you had asbestos, you had faulty wiring from the electric panel.
Yeah.
That's just insane. And that's stuff that would have been resolved up front if he was a legit broker and had you do the inspection. That stuff would have, but he was the listing agent also on the other side.
Correct.
Hence why he didn't want to see that. He wasn't a realtor, was he? He was just a broker.
I believe so.
Yeah. Because you learn in the realtor environment not to, perform like that. And that is the difference. Or one of the differences. So I'm sorry you went through that. But you learned a lot.
I did learn a lot. After I got in the industry, I'm like, oh.
You're in the industry now because you're a lender, right?
Branch manager.
Branch manager.
I just train the people now.
Right.
Everyone else does the business. I train.
Yes.
I guide. That's all I do now.
And I heard good things about you as a manager, so that's good.
I try. As we said, stay humbled.
You have to, right? You have to.
So, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, and I like working with people like yourself, right? Because, again, I've had people come back to me that were represented, and they're like, oh well, the person that represented me said that, oh, that isn't mold. That's not mold right there. That's just a stain.
Wow.
Or whatever, right? So I
That's
guess,
insane.
What would you tell the consumer, the people that actually trust people? What would you tell them? What would be your advice? What would you tell 21-year-old me if I came to you and I said, this just happened to me?
Meaning your experience after purchase or before?
Let's say after. It already happened. What would your advice be to me?
Well, if someone tells you you don't need to get an inspection, not only should you never speak to that person again, you should never speak to that person again.
I don't.
Right, you can't. So here's the thing. I've run into that where I've had a client said, and I'm not talking in the frenzy of after 2020 when you couldn't even do an inspection because if you wanted to do one, you couldn't get a deal. I'm not talking about that time frame. I'm talking about way back when people would say to me, I only have enough money to do the down payment to pay the lawyer fee, and I can't afford the inspection. And I said, well, I'm going to cover the cost of the inspection because I won't let you purchase the house without inspecting it first. So I go above and beyond, and that's not something a broker would normally do. But that's how important to me an inspection is, because it lets us know whether we have to walk away from this transaction or not, or get some help from the other party. So it's mandatory, right? If you don't want to do an inspection, not only do I send you 1,000 emails saying you neglected or you declined to do the inspection, so I cover myself, but I also send you a bunch of emails and text messages saying, hey, it was my idea for you to do an inspection, you chose not to, just so that it could never fall back on me. So that's very important for someone to do an inspection because it could make or break your future. Because God forbid you were young enough to bounce back. Imagine if you're 40 and that happens. Some people can't bounce back as a 40-year-old from having a house fire.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was a tough
moment. That's a tough one to hear. Thank God you bounced back. It took a while, right? What was that like? I mean, what was that situation like after bouncing back? I mean, did you say real estate's bad or?
No, honestly, it just, because when that fire happened, right, I remember calling at that point my branch manager. People say I'm dry, and I could agree with that. Imagine, I'm your team member, or you're my boss, and I'm like, I send you a text, hey Rohan, I'm not going into work tomorrow, my house just burned down. You're gonna be like, what the
That's
just
a
happened?
tough one, yeah. That's a tough one.
And then after that, after I sent the text message, my phone disappeared, right? Because I was dealing with all the things around me. So then he's like calling me, and then I'm like, I'm busy, what's up? It's like, you can't just send me the text message telling me this. Are you okay?
That's a tough one, yeah.
Well, I told you that my house burned. I'm alive.
Yeah, wow.
My bad. I'm busy. But I gotta say that everyone came together and supported me, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
It was a trying moment where I've struggled to receive. Still to this day, I still struggle to receive, right? Because in my life, and I'm sure this has happened to you too, where people give you things, but there's always a price. There's always the expectation of you giving something in return, right?
Yeah.
So I want to say that was one of the first moments in my life that I felt that people actually came together to help me with no expectation, and I felt so guilty.
You felt guilty?
I felt guilty.
For receiving
the help.
Wow.
Yes.
Because most people did the opposite.
Correct, because most people in my life give me stuff or help me or do things for me, but there's always the expectation of wanting something in return.
That's sad.
So that was hard. That was really hard. And I was like, what can I do? Like, can I make you food? I'll do this. And at that point, my manager was like, calm down.
No.
It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You just take it. And I struggled with that. I still struggle with it sometimes, right? Because it's hard. It's hard.
It really is. It really is. And when you've been dealt that hand where people didn't help, it's almost like, nervous to accept the help now when it's genuine.
Correct. So that's been fun.
Yeah. I've experienced a fire in the past, when I lived in New York, and that's scary to bounce back from. I mean, fire department, get out of the house, you gotta get out, everyone's gotta get out. It was nightmarish, and it was faulty wiring.
Yeah.
So that's scary. That's why the inspection is so important. We didn't just, start lighting the house on fire on purpose. The faulty wiring, and I literally saw the lines on the wall, light on fire in front of me, and that's scary stuff. So, it's an older building in Brooklyn, but it happens, and it's hard to bounce back from. It takes a while.
Yeah, I feel like in that moment, and maybe this happened to you too, right? I realized that we're all so attached to material things, and at that point, I don't care for material things, I don't know. I got this at a thrift store. So let's put it this way, right? And it's pretty nice. And I have people saying, I can't believe you shop at a thrift store. And it's like, who cares? it's gonna do the same thing that it would have cost Neo for $5.
Yeah.
Like it's not a big deal. And I think again that kind of got me out of attaching myself to material things. What was your experience after that?
Well, I never talk about something like this. Interesting you brought that up. So
Isn't it crazy how a lot of our lives are so similar? Because
Yeah.
we've talked about other things, and
Yeah.
I won't bring that
Yeah,
up. But
so-
that's
yeah.
like what?
Yeah, I know. It's interesting you brought that up because as a kid in New York, in high school, I had an avid polo collection. I had a lot of polo gear, like beyond the average. Like I had sweaters piled up. I had and expensive stuff. Some of that stuff is selling now for whatever. And literally, my entire collection burned that day. And it was so ravaging to me. I ran back into the fire department guy told me you can't get in. If you get in there, the fire won't kill you, the smoke will. And I didn't know what that meant. But I was thinking about all the stuff that I had, like thousands of dollars worth of items. That's what we called them back then. And it was all gone. In 30 minutes, everything was gone. And we had to start over. That taught me a lot. You can't hold on to that stuff. To this day, I wore a lot of polo as a kid, and I don't wear it anymore because of that memory. That's probably why, because I had a decent collection. That was a thing for me, and it's gone, and a fire caused it. So interesting. And I never told you something like that.
No.
So that's
but
interesting.
But I feel like Ray, it goes back to the same thing of you have two choices after these experiences. Is you could get resentful, or you could learn from it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I learned. Make sure you get an inspection because faulty wiring in the walls could cause an electric fire, and it's rapid. I mean, it was like 3 to 5 seconds from where I saw the spark to there was smoke everywhere, and the apartment was on fire. And I'm not talking 30 minutes. I'm talking, God bless the fire department because they showed up. But it happens that quickly, and God forbid it was at night. It was in the daytime, so we were able to get out. But if that was at night, that would have been ugly. Because the fire department told me it's not the fire that kills you, it's the smoke. So you're not allowed back in. I said, I got to get my stuff. It's like, you're not getting past me. And I had to, and it's a long story, but that was a tough one. So I know and that made me not think about, material stuff like you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely like humbles you.
It humbles you, yeah.
It really does humble you.
Yeah. I still like to flash a little bit, but not like I used to as a kid.
Well, I think at this point, right, if I were to lose something nice that I had, to be like, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Like I lost a jacket the other day and I had cash in it.
Well, that's a tough one.
And I'm like,
your cash is gone, yeah.
I think it was like $40 though. I'm like, whoever found it needed a jacket and needed $40. So God bless you,
Yeah.
whoever found my jacket.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Well, everyone who's joining us here at Success Without Borders here at KUHS Denver. Today we have Rohan Herbert with Herbert Realty, right?
Yes.
I got it right. Yes.
Herbert Realty Advisors.
Herbert Realty Advisors.
HRA.
HRA. And he's a director at SMIDRA.
Yes.
And we're talking about how important it is to get an inspection, even for those investors, right, that are buying a house.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Get it inspected. I mean, I've got inspectors that charge less money than if they would do a traditional inspection because they understand this person's buying and potentially flipping the property. They're not going to move in. So the cost isn't the same because it could be volume and they're going to come right back and get another one as opposed to someone buying one house.
Right.
Right. So I always say get an inspection. Just find out what's going on with the property.
Okay. What would be some other advice besides getting an inspection? Again, going back to my scenario when I was 21, transaction broker, was only told this was my option, and then the other advice that I received of, let's push you into the max because that's what you qualify for, not listening to my word saying I don't want to pay that monthly payment.
Yeah.
What would you tell me? Again, besides the inspection, 'cause that was tough.
Yeah.
What else would you advise?
I always tell my clients, especially the buyers, we're never going to go to your max. And I've had clients come up to me and says, dude, your commission is going to be less. And I'm like, it's just a commission. Who cares, right? That's not why I'm doing this. My job is to get you the best deal. And you can't go to the top of your budget because you won't have disposable income. And you need you got to go to the movies on the weekend, take your family out. If you just go to your max, Forget about any. You're just working to pay the mortgage, and that's cool, but that's not a life you want to live. So I always tell them that I don't care what the lender tells you you're qualified for. As an advisor, this is the budget we're gonna put forth, and this is what we're looking for. And sometimes I've had people get upset with me, and a year or two they call me back. Best decision I ever made. I was qualified for 700. You taught me into $500,000, and it's now I got a new car. I just bought a boat. I would not been able to do any of that if I went to my max. So I always talk them off the ledge. That's my job.
Yeah, I see I've seen the opposite over the years, right? Where again, you give them the max, and they would push to the max. Be like, what happened to you being comfortable at this payment? But I love the house.
Meaning the buyer telling you, I don't care what you're telling me, I want it? Is that what you meant?
Correct, because again, the other person on the deal took them to the max because that's all they care about.
Yeah.
And you're like, you said you were comfortable paying $3,000. When did it go up to $3,700?
Right. Well, I use a quick number. A third of your income is the number on what your mortgage payment should be. Sometimes that includes taxes and insurance. Anytime you go above that, I don't care how much money you think you're bringing in. Right? I know people that make, $500,000 a year and they're broke.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about what you bring in; it's what you keep, right?
Right.
And I know a guy that makes 90,000 and lives well, right? Because he budgets well or she budgets well. So it really depends. So that's important, right? So when someone says to me, "I'm qualified at X," and I'm like, "We're not looking at that price range." I actually just did one recently, and we went below. They were qualified at $1 million, and we didn't buy that much. They were upset a little bit at first, and then they saw my logic when I found the perfect house anyway for 200 less, whatever it was.
Yeah. I guess okay, now let's forget the consumer.
Right.
Because you've managed a team of realtors.
Yes.
And if you found out one of your brokers, one of your agents was doing this to their clients, what would you do?
Doing what? What part?
All of it. Everything that happened to me.
Everything that happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
If I'm the client, I come in and complain, Rohan, so and so broker, this is what happened. What advice or what conversation would you have with that broker?
That's a good question. Here's why you and I, if you were the consumer at that point, would never have that conversation. Anybody on my team would never do that to you. And what I mean by that is I interview thoroughly, right? Like I just started the company. I've interviewed a few brokers recently, and one or two of them might be joining, and I've turned away people because I saw they're just in it for the money, and that's not my thing, right? So I can see that problem happening in the future, what you just described, because I'm a top producer, I can do X. I'm like, I don't care if you do 100 deals a minute. If you're gonna hurt the consumer, I'm not interested in getting a cut of that. I don't want no parts of you being in my company, right? So I walk away from that. I'm not interested in a broker that makes $100 deals, does 100 deals a minute, excuse me, and the consumer means nothing to them, right? I'm not interested in that person. So I definitely vet before I bring someone on the team. Sometimes you can inherit a team and you can't help who's there already. That happened also in the past, and we definitely didn't give any transactions to that client. I mean that broker. They generated a deal on their own, and that's different. And I can kind of watch that as much as possible. But that's, as a manager, right, we have a limited scope of what we could see, especially with the new rule that just came out in 2026. As a managing broker, technically, a designated broker in my office can't share certain things with me. That's a new rule in 2026. So
I did not know that.
yeah, it's a new rule.
What does that mean? What does that mean for the consumer?
Right. Well, they're saying they didn't want the managing broker to somehow take advantage of a potential client. It's going back and forth. There are talks that it might, and this is from the commission, So I don't want to delve into it because it might be retracted, but because a lot of managing brokers, and some of the managing brokers are attorneys, and it says, well, let me take my broker hat off and put my attorney hat on. That could backfire on me as a managing broker, because then technically I can't give correct advice.
Correct.
Or guide one of the brokers in my office. So that's the thing and I don't have an opinion yay or nay on it because, I just started my company. I don't, I'm the new guy on the block. But yeah, a lot of attorneys that I know that own real estate companies are frowning on that new rule.
Okay. Well,
I
that
don't
makes
have an
sense.
opinion either way.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
At least you gotta keep me updated on that one.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
2026, it just came out.
What other new rules that affect the consumer have come out recently that you think we should share today?
New rule.
I'll give you one.
Yeah,
that
please.
came out last year.
Yes.
I think we talked about this one. Was I think it was Denver County is now requiring homeowners or investors to get permits to rent out their properties.
Yeah.
Right? Investors.
Yeah.
And I think all other counties are going to start following suit here soon. So I think that's very important that if you're an investor or you're going to start doing your rental properties, that's something that you talk with your property managers, or if you're doing self-managed. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're asking me, do I think the new rule is good or bad, or?
I guess, what is the new rule? And then, yeah, is it good or bad?
Well, they're requiring the investors or the landlords to have licenses.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think about that, right? Well, what comes with having that license is you have to, let's say you have a subsidized tenant, you have to do certain things to the place to make sure it's up to par. Some of that rule should be in place. Some of those rules should be in place because there's slumlords out there.
Okay.
And you never want to deal with a slumlord as a tenant because they don't care, right? So that's probably where the origin of the rule came from, because of some of the slumlords. I mean, you got some buildings that it's on the news that the tenants are complaining every day about. So that guy or that entity that owns that asset, whether it's 30 units or whatever it is, those guys probably should be in trouble because they're not living up to the standard of, but let's flip that now. What are they doing to the small guy, the small investor that has one or two rentals, right? The new rules could affect him or her, right? I like rules. I like following them, so it doesn't really bother me, but it depends on what the landlord's up to. Because if you're following all the rules anyway and doing it the right way, it's not really, the rule's not really a bad thing. I think it's for the slumlords that are out there that don't care. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I have a friend, and she was saying that she lives in Greeley, and she had to move out. They evicted her, and I guess listen to this, and you're gonna have to give me some advice so we can advise her and maybe steps moving forward. I don't know how to advise her here. She's a tenant. She's having issues with her bathroom. It was draining water. Long story short, she was taking her kid a bath. Takes the kid out of the bath, leaves the bathroom like 5-10 minutes later. The whole the roof caves into the sink, into the tub.
Wow. No way.
And after cause she kept complaining to the landlord, to the owner of the apartments, they were just like, it's whatever. And then they ended up evicting her in order to correct the issue, but they evicted her and kept her deposit.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Now do you see why I think some of the rules should be in place?
I agree 100% because
Yeah.
I see this all the time.
Yeah.
I have another friend. She's renting a property, and since she moved in, it's been infested with cockroaches and mice. And
there are cockroaches in Colorado?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Sorry.
There's bed bugs too.
Thought that was a New York thing. I didn't know.
They're tiny. They're tiny little cockroaches.
I've never seen them in Colorado. That's
Well,
why. Whereas in New York, you grew up, you see them everywhere. But
big ones? Are they big ones?
Well,
Or they're tiny
it's
ones?
relative to they're everywhere in New York. Well, not anymore. A lot of change happened since stuff's been gentrified and whatever. But I'm talking 80s when I grew up as a kid. But I think the rules that has the landlord registering, is that the rule? They gotta register
so, yeah.
and have a license.
Mm-hmm.
That comes with some kind of responsibility, I think. I think that's where the rules stem from. Because, the subsidized tenants sometimes don't even know their rights or know that they have rights. And I think you registering your 2 to 3 rentals or your 10 rentals, there will be some sort of responsibility on you as an adult person, take responsible as a landlord to make sure that your tenant that's literally paying sometimes 50% or more of their income to live here, they should live in a place that's worth, human dignity. So, in regards to your friend, the question was, did she have any
recourse to get her deposit back?
Everything depends on what the lease says. So until I read that lease, I don't know what it says. But generally, the standard lease does give some sort of recourse, right? Um, but I think I have to read the lease to know what it says. Because
Okay.
I don't know what it says, and that's right. I don't want to give an opinion, and I don't know. Because the lease could say, if you sign this and you move out for any reason, you don't get your money back. Then legally, no one can get the money back for her. But right, that's what I mean. A lease shouldn't say that, but I don't know what the lease says, so it's tough for me to have an opinion on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's an easy question to answer, but I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and I read the lease tomorrow and it says she can't get the money back.
Right.
Because it's in writing.
Well, I think that's the best advice that you can give us, right? Is read your lease.
Please read the lease. Please, I'm gonna say it one more time. You have to read the lease as a tenant because that determines the next step if something goes wrong. And the landlord sometimes could be cold, but they have the right to be cold if you didn't even read your lease. And so people say it's a 3-page lease. I'm like, read it 3 times. Yeah. You gotta read it. So it depends on what the lease says.
Okay. And same thing with the other person dealing with the infestation and all that too.
Well, that's just insanity. I mean, it doesn't cost that much money for a manager or a property manager or owner to be responsible. Plus, them bringing in a pest control company is a tax write-off for them. It's an expense.
They are bringing in a pest control,
okay.
but it just doesn't fix
Doesn't
the issue.
help?
And it's been over a year.
So there's something else going on besides just the unit. How many units in the complex?
That one's a single family.
Single family?
That
Could be fixed. I thought you meant like a 30-unit building.
The
That's
other
different.
one, yeah, that's a big complex. This other one's
a single family that could be fixed. That's the landlord being cheap.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I brought up the fact that that expense is a write-off anyway. So why not help out your tenant? That's just my opinion. Be a good landlord. It's probably why they're making you guys register all your rentals now.
Yeah, I wonder why, right? And for all the other ones, everyone pays.
Huh? For what?
For one person.
Oh yeah.
Everyone ends up paying, right?
Yeah, that's usually. Well, that's where the new rule that came in that the real estate commission just came up with this year. Because a lot of the brokers, because I went on a meeting that the commission had about implementing the new rule, and in the meeting, the broker owners, it was a broker owner meeting, and the broker owners voiced their opinions. A few of them were attorneys, and it says we don't like this rule. But I'm like, the rule exists because there were 1 or 2 bad actors, and I guess the good guys were saying, well, we don't operate our business like that. Why do we get in trouble as broker owners for 1 or 2 guys messing up? But that's not how the government works, right? Or you use 1 bad actor for them to implement a new rule.
Correct. Well, Rohan, do you want to add anything else to your interview today? You're gonna come back.
Am I? Am I invited back?
You are invited back.
I thought it was one
How was it?
It was excellent. I will bring up one thing. I started HRA, Herbert Realty Advisors, because as a young broker, when I got my license, most brokerages, when you get your license, it's one-dimensional. A broker's not taught how to survive outside of getting a transaction, and whether it's a seller looking to sell or a buyer looking to buy. No one really teaches the brokers. When you get out of real estate school, you just go get a listing or you get a buyer. No one teaches the broker how to be an investor. It's not really out there. So I started this company in particular to help brokers that want to get into the investment side of the business. Because I don't care if you did 100 deals a minute. When you turn 65, 70 and you don't do that next transaction, there is no money coming in, right? And no one teaches the brokers that. 20 plus years later, whoever I invite on to join my company, or if I interview them and they join, the goal is to turn that person into an investor. So when they stop practicing at 65, 70, and they're not showing houses anymore, not taking inventory, they could still survive because they have 1 or 2 rental properties that hopefully they're paid off and they're cash flowing. So you could create a legacy for your family or whomever, and create some generational wealth. So that's my mantra of the company, is to help brokers create generational wealth, not just, I did 50 deals last year. I'm like, okay, when you retire, what's next? Because I don't care
and where's
how
the
many
money?
deals. Right, where's the money? Because I've seen a lot of guys that did a lot of volume, and at 65, they had nothing to show for it, meaning they overspent. But if you become an investor as a broker, then you have something to fall back on. So that's really why I started the company.
Okay. Well, there you go. Any new broker or veteran broker that wants to learn how to invest in real estate, reach out to Rohan.
Yes. And not only can I, it's fine, not only can I.
I was going to say Herbert, your last name.
I like it.
'Cause
Not,
it's
not
part
only
of
can I
routine.
help, not only can I help those brokers or whomever that comes into my office find a discounted property that's off market. Usually the off market properties are where the discount is. I can also fund that transaction for them.
Okay.
So I'm also a private money lender that we lend funds on those investment properties as well. So I'm not high and dry. Here's the property. Good luck. I'll help you find the property. We'll fund the deal, and either you can sell it back yourself if you're flipping it, or put in a tenant in it and holding it. But you can't go to Chase or Bank of America to borrow the money, because when they walk into the kitchen's mission, the appraiser won't appraise the property. Whereas we don't care. We like the kitchen. We like when the kitchen's missing, because we can get it at a discount.
That is true. Well, there you guys have it. Rohan, Herbert, thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
This was fun.
It was.
And I told I'm being invited back.
Yes, sir. Of course, always.
Wow, thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you everyone for listening today. We will see you guys next week. I don't know who I have. Oh, I do. It's next week we have a mariachi guy.
Really?
Yes.
Are we
His
still
name's
alive?
Morgan. Yep, he's
Oh.
still alive.
I like mariachi.